The next several minutes I'm going to take you through setting up iAllowance from scratch. This will give you an idea of just what you need in order to get iAllowance up and running for your family. So let's get started. After running iAllowance for the first time, you're going to be presented with this bookshelf and chalkboard interface. And you're going to be asked if you want to load some sample data. And in this case, we'd recommend that you say yes, load data. It'll take a few seconds for this to download. Now this tutorial shows the iPad, but the iPhone is very similar, so you should be able to follow along just fine. Once the data is loaded, you'll be told that the data was loaded successfully, and you'll see that the Harrison person has been loaded. Next, you'll be asked if you want to see the tutorial. I recommend that you say yes. Most likely that's how you found this video. Now let's look around. We've got rewards in the sample Harrison person here. We've got chores of various different kinds. We've got bank totals showing all of the banks that are set up in both tabular and pie chart format. And up here on the sliding shelf we have several banks. Each bank having its own set of transactions, much like a ledger in any bank. And if we click on the blue arrow, we see how the Harrison account is set up. We've got a number of banks, rewards, allowances, and chores. So let's set up a person from scratch and see what that's like. We'll start by pressing the plus button here, and we see that we have a blank person with the person's name as name. So let's set up that person. Let's give this person a name, and we're going to call him Bob. And to personalize Bob, we're going to select the photo, and we have a photo here to pick from. Next, we'll select a birth date. We'll enter an email address. Now the email address is the default address that will come up if you want to utilize the emailing of the bank ledger or chores. The shelf sort order, we'll get to that a little bit later. The next thing that we want to do is we want to set up some banks. Now banks are the most important thing you can do in iAllowance, whether you plan on using the bank feature or not, or if you just want to use chores. We're going to send up 3 banks here. First one's called spending money. Now just like any physical piggy bank, iAllowance works off the very same principle. You need a physical bank in order to store money at home, but in iAllowance you need a piggy bank to store either money or stars. And you can see that we just set up the bank called spending money. Now let's set up another bank. And this bank we're going to call savings. I'm going to let this be money with a starting balance. And this one we're going to add an optional interest rate, or a 5% interest rate every month. And we're going to choose which day that starts on. We're going to pick October 1st. Okay, so now we got another bank. Now I plan on setting up some chores to use for stars, so I need a star bank. And this bank I'm going to call stars. And I'll set the type up for stars. And I give a starting star balance of 10 stars. I don't need to, but I did. Now I've got 3 banks. And if I exit out, you'll see that I have my star bank, my savings bank, and my spending money bank. And all of them have no transactions in them. That's okay for now. Now I want to rearrange those by just dragging the stars to the end and the spending money to the top and exiting out, and you'll see that my bank shelf is now in the order that I want. Now let's set up some rewards. Rewards are a great tool for giving your kids something to shoot for. And in this case, we're going to set up a couple of rewards. The first one we're going to call video game. In this particular video game, we're going to show an icon. It's going to be money that they're going to be shooting for, and this particular video game is $35. And we're going to let the rewards track based off of either all banks, or in this case just the spending money bank. More on that a little bit later. Let's set up a new reward. We're going to call this one ice cream. And this one's going to be based off of stars. We'll choose a quick icon here. Again, stars is going to be what we're going to be doing here, and for this particular one, we're going to be saying every 10 stars they can cash this in for ice cream. We'll set it to the star bank for tracking. Again, more on this later. So now we've got two. Let's see what that looks like. We have our little reward trophy here, and you'll notice that we have video game and ice cream. And the green bar in ice cream shows that we have enough accumulated stars to get ice cream, yet with the video game we still have some amount of saving left to go. Now let's set up an allowance. Allowance is key, the cornerstone of iAllowance. Setting up an allowance to pay out either stars or money on a regular basis. You can have as many as you like. In this case, we're going to set up an allowance to pay every 2 weeks. We'll pick a start date. We're going to start on October 1st. Many people choose a particular day of the week, so pick a day that's like a Saturday or Sunday. We're going to set our interval every 2 weeks. We're going to pay out by either money, by percent, or by stars. In this case, let's choose percent. We're going to pick an overall amount, $10, and we're going to spread this allowance across the two different banks. We're going to go savings for 50%, and we're going to set up the other 50% for spending money. So what we've done is every 2 weeks, automatically, based on your start date, we're going to pay out $10, and half of that is going to go into spending money, and half of that is going to go into savings. Now let's add some chores. The first chore we're going to add is make bed. And every time my child makes their bed, I'm going to award some stars. So I'm going to set this to stars. And we're going to say per event. We're going to do it every 1 week, which means the chore will show up every week. I'm not going to make them make their bed on the weekends, so only Monday through Friday. Start date, multiple completions. We'll get more to that later. And we're going to select a bank here to where our stars are going to go. The amount is 5 stars. We're going to deposit that, and that's all we're going to do. So let's back out and take a look at what that looks like by clicking chores, and you'll notice here we have a chore for make bed. Now notice we get this hint here saying that we can remove a chore by just holding our finger on the chore for a second. So we're going to check off a couple of chores, and you'll notice that we've got a credit of 10 stars at the bottom for the week. And if we scroll over to our star bank, remember that's the container which holds the stars. We have 2 transactions for making bed, 1 for each day. So let's add a couple of more chores. We're going to use the copy chore feature and go back to our make bed to give us a template to start from. In this one we're going to say empty dishwasher. Now for this particular chore we're going to pay money, and we're going to pay into the spending money account, and instead of $5 we're going to set this to 25 cents. You can choose to set yours up any way you want. We also like to set to occur any time per week. That's not limited to the day. And we also want to allow it to happen multiple times per day or per week. And we'll let the icon show up as a star. Now, let's add one more. This chore will be called bad behavior. And we'll set that up for stars. And what we want to have happen is that every time we press this for bad behavior, we want it to take away some stars. We're going to let this happen every day, and we're going to allow it to happen more than 1 time per day. And we'd like it to show up on the chore chart as an unhappy face. We're going to select a bank, which is our star bank, and an amount of 2 stars. And this time, instead of a deposit, we're going to take away money. After we save out, let's see how that looks. And you'll notice we have our 3 chores. I can award a couple of empty dishwasher and some bad behavior. Again, the amount will be increased or decreased depending on how you set up the chore. That's about it. From this point, you're all set up and ready to go. If you need more information, take a look at the online help system from within iAllowance. Thanks for your time.